Now, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chris Ockenvold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be the last speaker during this reading of the bill. The bill is to facilitate the establishment and operation of a new company, the New Zealand Local Government Funding Agency. And it has been a pleasure, Mr. Speaker, to see this bill come through our select committee, and it was one of those occasions when basically we were all in agreement that it was a good idea. Not only a good idea, that it had true purpose, true meaning, and is a significant piece of legislation. I remember during the early stages, Mr. Speaker, because as has been evidenced by the way people have spoken, we were pretty much in accord on this issue. It was very much a bipartisan discussion over the whole thing. I did nonetheless feel obliged to ask the question of the officials, if this is such a good idea now, why haven't we done it before? And the answer to that question really was given by Local Government New Zealand, who are very, very strong supporters of this particular bill. They said, well, in the past, without the pressures of the difficult economic times we've been having, money was reasonably easy to facilitate for local councils, and the interest rates were always competitive because they were such a blue chip financial institution. But without that, with the difficult times we have had, with banks being more careful who they lend to, with councils being more cautious about borrowing, this has certainly become a timely operation, and it's a good thing to be doing. Local Government New Zealand has estimated the funding agency will save local government in the order of $25 million each year. At the Local Government and Environment Select Committee, we are quite familiar with the level of debt that various councils are engaged in, and we're kept up to date with that. And so if we can make savings and easier facilitation of money, the operation of the agency will also strengthen New Zealand's capital markets by providing a new high-quality investment option. And that will be a good thing too. Unsurprisingly, the bill has a very high level of support throughout the local government sector. And we're advised that 35 local authorities have indicated that they intend to participate as shareholders in the funding agency, and a further 14 have indicated that they'll participate in the scheme as guaranteeing borrowers. There's strong support for the proposal, and there's very little opposition to it. And I think it's a credit, if I may just take a moment, Mr. Speaker, to reflect on the response to local government requirements that the current Minister of Local Government has shown. Throughout his tenure of that portfolio, Mr. Hyde, Honourable Mr. Hyde, has repeatedly come out with legislation which is tailor-made to suit the requirements of local government. It goes from the very large effort in Auckland down to this sort of consideration, which is really for smaller councils' maximum advantage. And this bill is a most worthwhile piece of legislation. It does give the Minister of Finance authority to lend money to the agency in exceptional circumstance, but it specifically states that the Crown does not guarantee the obligations of the funding agency. Mr. Speaker, as I say, I'm pleased to be the last person speaking on this particular part of particular reading of the bill, and it's the recommended amendments that we brought through the committee will be most worthwhile if they're incorporated into it. I think of the 6 submissions we had, 5 were in support, very few recommendations for change. It's been a very tidy piece of legislation. I'm deeply grateful to the committee members who assisted in the passage of the bill, and to the officials who provided us with the assistance we required. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Steve Chadwick.
Thank you. I'm only going to take a short call, mainly because at certain humility